You know what's interesting about cryptids? Nothing. So I thought we could make this video a little more exciting by ranking a couple of cryptids in a tier list. A tier list of believability. So let's just get our tier list set up quickly, and we can call our first tier complete and utter it. And that should do it. Let's get started. Our first cryptid is the Fresno Nightcrawlers. Now, the Nightcrawler is one of the only cryptids in the world that have some supporting video evidence. So maybe we should start by taking a look at that video. Well, that's the biggest bunch of bullshit I've ever seen in my life. Now, the people who like to try and convince us that this is a real creature often like to do that by saying that the Nightcrawler's video has never been debunked and no one has any proof that this video is fake. I, on the other hand, like to say, well then where is the original video? Well, it's missing. Like your common sense.
Got him!
That's just a joke, believe whatever you want. But when I started researching the Nightcrawlers, one of the very first videos I came across was a video that Captain Disillusion made back in 2012. And in that video, he explains very nicely what exactly we are seeing here.
All I have to do is figure out what's happening in an image originally recorded by an off-the-shelf night vision security camera onto a VHS tape, then filmed off a TV screen with a handheld consumer camcorder, dubbed by a TV station, edited into a news show from which it was DVR'd by another person, digitized into a video file, played from a laptop on a projector at a conference where it was filmed from the screen, compressed and uploaded to YouTube. But a locked-off camera and horrible quality really invite a lot of possibilities for a hoax. I mean, look at them. Really, the only difference between my footage and Jose's is that I didn't accidentally erase my original tape.
What? What the fuck?
Can you imagine capturing real video proof of an unidentified creature and then just losing the fucking tapes? It is actually unbelievable how often this happens when it comes to cryptids or ghosts. Speaking of which, let me just do this before I forget. Now, if we had the original video of the Nightcrawlers, we'd potentially be able to get a slightly clearer look at this thing, and that might help determine whether this was a hoax or a real creature. That said though, even with this dogshit quality video, this thing still looks very fake to me. But since the original recording is gone forever now and we can't get a better look at this thing, how's about we take a look at this cryptid's origin story then, just to see if there are any red flags. Now, as the story goes, back in November of 2007, a man known only as Jose, who has also since passed away, so let's be respectful, apparently went to a TV station called Univision on 2 separate occasions to get this video played on TV. According to Brian Dunning of Skeptoid.com, Jose's video showed 2 short white creatures, like small pairs of white pants, walking across his front yard. The one in front was taller, and the one following was shorter. Seeking some expert commentary on the tape, Univision then called Victor Camacho, the host of the late-night paranormal radio show Los Desvelados, which means the Sleepless Ones. Now, they asked Victor to come on the air and state that the creatures in this video were aliens. Amazing how we can just say whatever the fuck we want on TV without proof. But to Victor's credit at least, he originally told Univision that he couldn't say that these creatures were aliens because he didn't actually know what these creatures were. So he refused to make this confirmation based on the grainy footage alone. A couple months later though, Jose contacted Victor, hoping for new information about these creatures. Victor Camacho then came to visit Jose at his home to see where the creatures were first sighted. Jose then showed Victor the yard where the video was captured, and apparently it was clear that the creatures had been quite small, no more than half a meter high. And that was basically it. As far as anybody has said, nothing further was ever learned. But after meeting with Jose, Victor firmly believed that the footage was legitimate. And I'm sure that Victor believed that the Dark Crystal and Labyrinth movies were real as well.
You read too many stories.
No, this was real!
Everything the Skeksis ever told us was a lie.
And I suppose, in a way, they kinda were. because they were puppets with occasional VFX, which is pretty much what I think is going on here. Because in my opinion, there's just something really uncanny about this thing's movement. Kinda sorta like what you see in puppetry. Like it feels weightless. But to be fair, I suppose, feelings aren't very scientific. So feelings are irrelevant. But what is relevant is the biggest fucking problem with this entire video. And that problem is the Fresno Nightcrawler's shadow. Notice how it's just one solid line. How the fuck is that even possible when this thing has 2 legs? If this shadow that we're seeing here in the video was really cast by these 2 legs walking towards the camera, you should expect to see the shadows of the individual legs in sync with this thing's walk cycle. But we don't see that. Why? It is clearly casting a shadow. Here's an example of what we should be seeing. So in my opinion, this shadow shit has officially killed the Fresno Nightcrawler. However, here's something else that you might find suspicious as well. There's a moment in this video where this thing's shadow seems to be getting ahead of it somehow. How the fuck is that even possible? Unless there's some bullshittery at work here. So my theory is that this is just some puppetry with a little bit of VFX. Simple shit that even I can do. The only problem though is that I don't think anybody can actually say for sure how Jose actually accomplished this. But my guess is that he just walked across the lawn, captured his shadow separately, then went back and then somehow puppeted whatever this shit is. Pair of pants or a bedsheet or whatever, and then just spliced the 2 clips together. Now I think that that's a pretty safe guess, considering that there's one frame here where this thing actually has a shadow underneath it. And then all of a sudden, that shadow just disappears again. Kinda looks like it could have been a mistake. Which, you know, shadows aren't really known for. And then this bit at the end looks pretty fucking weird to me as well. When the thing just starts quickly bunny hopping out of frame. Kinda reminds me of the dog from Labyrinth. But again, I'm not sure what Jose did. All I'm pretty sure of is that he did something. Now my theory and Captain Disillusion's theory is pretty much the same idea. Right, well unfortunately there is more to the story, so let's keep going. After meeting with Jose, Victor thought that this video was legit and he told the Fresno Bee, quote, "He didn't even want to go out of the house. He stayed home for a couple of weeks. It wasn't possible that somebody tried to make this video just to fool you or the TV station." But how do you know that? How do you know that Jose never left the house? Were you with him? You do realize, Victor, that people can say whatever the fuck they want, right? I mean, I could say that my cat Misty can speak. She's responsible for running this channel, she's responsible for writing the scripts for this channel, and she's the one that actually made this banner. Why do you think that it says subscribe to give Misty a treat? Now prove that I'm lying. People will believe just about fucking anything. Just how Victor Camacho believed that this video was real, instead of the far more likely explanation that Jose just made this video for fun. I mean, if you spend just a minute thinking about this, if the Nightcrawler was a real creature, why has nobody ever caught one? In order for there to be a surviving population of Fresno Nightcrawlers, there would have to be lots of them. And these fucking things don't look like they can run very fast. So how in the blue hell are they outrunning predators? And where are the bones? We can find dinosaurs, but we can't find Fresno Nightcrawlers. And on the off chance that these are actually aliens, how exactly do you propose that they built their spaceships then? They don't even have fucking arms. Now, unfortunately, the story still doesn't end here. There's still a little bit more to it. So let's hurry the fuck up. Now, according to Brian Dunning, in 2010, the paranormal TV show Fact or Faked did a segment on the Nightcrawlers. It was here where the hosts dubbed it the Fresno Nightcrawler and declared, as was their habit on the show, that the video was authentic and could not have been faked.
You addicted to drugs.
Now, with a national TV show giving it a great bump in the public awareness, the Fresno Nightcrawler officially became a new face in the annals of cryptozoology. Following this publicity is when more videos of the Nightcrawlers began to appear. as well as all of this cool artwork and merchandise. Annoyingly, I do actually kind of like this shit. Anyways, while I wait now for my Nightcrawler plushie to be shipped to me, let's take a look at the next Nightcrawler video. This one, arguably more famous than the last one, is known throughout the internet as the Yosemite Nightcrawler video. Now this video shows two Nightcrawlers walking for their lives from some pesky predators trying to eat them, or from some cryptozoologists trying to... What do cryptozoologists do? Nothing.
Got him!
Now again, the Yosemite Nightcrawlers seem to feel weightless, and their legs seem to jitter and slide after stepping. Something, again, that you see in the ancient noble art of puppetry, and even in some VFX. Even some very good VFX, like in The Lord of the Rings when Sam runs into Mount Doom. And again, if this really was a real creature, evolution would have wiped them out a long time ago. The fucking panda is struggling to make it, but this thing that looks like it can't even walk properly is doing just fine. They've been seen in California, in Montana, and even Poland. Now, not that we do, but if we had any more reason to be suspicious of this Yosemite Nightcrawlers video, it comes from a very questionable source as well. A UFO gaming YouTube channel. Because it is always the UFO people. Now, the person who originally uploaded this video said that it came from security camera footage recorded the month before by retired friends of his who live inside Yosemite National Park, not far from Fresno. Brian Dunning of Skeptoid goes on to basically say, "Isn't it just fucking amazing that the one person who gets a call in a video about this incredible footage of an unknown creature is a guy who is quite clearly a fan of UFOs and the paranormal? You know, because why the hell would we send this video to scientists, biologists, or historians who could confirm if any creature similar to the Nightcrawler has ever been documented in any kind of historical text, mural, or sculpture? And I know that people have claimed that such sculptures and shit exist. However, the truth is that these images of these alleged indigenous sculptures were shown to local Native American tribes to confirm their authenticity. And none of these tribes recognized the Fresno Nightcrawlers. None of these tribes recognized these sculptures. So I don't think it takes a genius here to figure out that these sculptures are just as real as the Fresno Nightcrawlers themselves. And sadly, they're not real. The Fresno Nightcrawlers are complete and utter fucking bullshit. And you know what? So is Netflix. How dare you spend so much money on Stranger Things but not make Dark Crystal Season 2?
You just made the list! Oh no!
Alright, next up is the Jersey Devil. Now this piece of shit is said to inhabit the forests of the New Jersey Pine Barrens and is described as a flying kangaroo or wyvern looking thing with a horse or a goat head. Well, I gotta say that I'm quite impressed that the description of the larger, more noticeable parts of this thing are so specific. But it's also apparently got a bobtail, leathery bat wings, cloven hooves, and small T-Rex arms.
All the dinosaurs feared the T-Rex.
But despite being so feared by all of the other dinosaurs, the Jersey Devil is said to have a high-pitched, blood-curdling scream. Just in case it needs that, for some reason. And it doesn't really sound like that's to alert the rest of its pack or species to any kind of danger, because according to the origin story of the Jersey Devil, there's only one of them. So, yeah, wow. Now, according to legend, in 1735, a woman named Leeds had 12 children, and after discovering that she was pregnant with the 13th one, she cursed the child in frustration, declaring, "Let the child be the devil." The child, though born normally, immediately grew claws, a tail, and wings, and flew out into the Pine Barrens of New Jersey, straight into the bullshit tier. What? What a waste of time. Now next up is El Chupacabra. Now this damn thing is almost as famous as El Bigfoot and El Loch Ness Monster. So I suppose that it deserves El proper beating. So for those that don't know what El Chupacabra is, I envy your ignorance. This thing is said to prey on livestock, mostly goats, but it doesn't discriminate. Any animal will do just fine. Any animal except for humans, of course. So don't worry, we are all safe. But allegedly, El Chupacabra kills its victims by puncturing their necks and drinking their blood like a vampire. Hence the name El Chupacabra, literally meaning goat sucker. Now, the origin story of this thing seems to be based on something that really happened, at least, with a supposed series of unexplained livestock deaths in Puerto Rico in the 1970s. And recent research has even suggested that the same events actually occurred in the 1950s as well, which led a lot of locals at the time to call the mysterious killer the Vampire of Mocha. That said though, canonically, the first ever report of El Chupacabra comes from El 1995, when a Puerto Rican resident claimed to have seen this thing.
And I've got to say, in all honesty, it's the biggest piece of dog shit that I have ever heard.
Now, after this illustration was printed in the newspaper, hundreds of people started claiming that they had seen the exact same thing, as is, of course, tradition. Now, I don't know about you, but this thing looks like something you'd see in a sci-fi movie. And that's because it actually is. Benjamin Radford, the deputy editor of the Skeptical Inquirer and the guy that wrote the book called Tracking the Chupacabra, noticed that this creature in this illustration looked remarkably similar to the alien seen in the 1995 sci-fi movie Species. Ben Radford then went and spoke with Madeline Tolentino, the lady that we have to thank for seeing this alien and introducing the world to El Chupacabra. And Ben asked her, hey, have you seen the movie Species perchance? Madeline said see, and that she saw it just a few weeks before making her description of the Chupacabra. And this is exactly why we cannot trust eyewitness testimony. According to Ben Radford, you can make a direct connection between the film hitting the theaters, Madeline seeing the creature in the film, then seeing it in the street, making her report, and entering the Chupacabra into the public consciousness. Suffice it to say that after this revelation, the description of the Chupacabra has been retconned. It's now said to resemble some sort of dog, and it also doesn't really even suck blood anymore. Because according to Ben Radford's book again, in the chapter called The Zoology of Chupacabras and the Science of Vampires, Ben Radford compiled reports of researchers who examined victims of animal predation in apparent Chupacabra attacks. And Radford noted that the claims that the animals had been exsanguinated, or drained of blood, were inaccurate. In fact, a Puerto Rican vet named Dr. David Morales analyzed 300 reported Chupacabra victims, and none of them were bled dry. The apparent loss of blood is just eyewitness testimony. I should probably explain. That's my new euphemism for the word bullshit. There's actually an explanation for this apparent loss of blood. After being attacked, the injuries cause internal hemorrhaging, which causes blood to pool at the bottom of the corpse. Furthermore, the puncture wounds on the neck of the animals are more than likely just from regular predators' canine teeth, and predators often instinctively go for the neck. I suppose a fair question to ask now is, why didn't the predators then eat their prey? Why are there only puncture marks? Fuck knows. Maybe somebody can ask Casual Geographic. The point is that predators like coyotes do this, as you can see here with these pretty fucking whole chickens left behind after being attacked by coyotes. I suppose a good question to ask now is, it pronounced coyote or coyote? The answer is pretty simple. Who gives a fuck? Now, if you read Ben Radford's book Tracking the Chupacabra, which I would recommend if you are interested in tracking the Chupacabra, you'll find several examples of animals that were mistaken as Chupacabras over the years. And in the cases where they could actually examine the animal, like its remains or even just a photograph of the thing or whatever, in every single case where they could examine it, the animal was identified as a known species. Just for shits and giggles, let me give you a few examples. This here is the Coors Road Chupacabra. Or if you want to be really specific about it, it is this dog, which people have very cleverly nicknamed the Zolo dog. This is a dog breed that has lived in Mexico for 3,000 years. But the important thing to take away here is that it's a dog and not an alien. Or is it? No, it's a fucking dog. But it's amazing how the Vsauce music can make anything sound intelligent. Yeah. The next example is the Blanco Chupacabra, which was found in Texas. Now, this one didn't have DNA testing done, but according to people who know what they're talking about, they have good reason to assume that this is either a breed of dog or a coyote inflicted with mange. And for those that don't know what mange is a skin disease that makes animals lose their hair. And some other terrible shit too. The next example here is the Runaway Bay Chupacabra, or a young raccoon that somehow lost its fur. This one is weird though, because after examining the raccoon, the people who looked at it didn't even think that it had mange. It just somehow lost its hair, which is really sad. F's in the chat for this poor little guy. But as a final example here, this is the Cuero Chupacabra, which after DNA testing was done, it was announced that this was a coyote. I suppose a good question to ask now is, do these animals look weird, and can we understand why the people who saw them thought they were aliens? Not really. Personally, I don't think any of them look that weird. On the other hand though, if somebody saw this fucking thing sucking their chickens, then I would understand. The only problem is, the person who apparently witnessed this thing somehow mixed up whatever she really saw with a fucking alien from a fucking movie. But let's just get that Vsauce music back here for a second. If this creature did indeed exist, there should be fucking lots of them in order to keep the species alive. Yet, we can't find them anywhere. All we can find is hairless raccoons, ancient dog breeds, and mange-afflicted coyotes. Now, I know what you're thinking, but it just felt better to end that sentence on a 3-syllable word instead of a 2-syllable one, like bullshit. But with this all said, why does this myth persist? According to a website called LiveScience, Ben Radford says it's the result of a perfect storm of urban legend brewing conditions. El Chupacabra was one of the first mythical beasts discovered in the internet age. Its image and story spread around the world, and especially to Spanish-speaking countries, in just a matter of weeks. It also gained, oh my god, it also gained the support of UFO enthusiasts. Why is it always these fucking people at the center of every fucking stupid story? It gained the attention of UFO enthusiasts who latched onto the idea that the creature was an alien. Or even an alien's pet. Where the fuck they got that information, I have no idea. And these people also seem to fucking love that there was some sort of conspiracy cover-up angle, as is often associated with forensic analysis of the Chupacabra. Radford, though, also has another theory. The thing about myths is that people want to believe in things. I suppose that, in a perverse way, there's something comforting in that there's this vampiric monster that doesn't attack humans. Well, aren't we just fucking lucky? Anyways, I think that El Chupacabra is our biggest bunch of bullshit I have ever heard.
Or is it?
Probably not. The Jersey Devil is probably the stupidest thing we've spoken about today, but damn, the Fresno Nightcrawlers were pretty fucking stupid too. I don't have to order these, do I? Fuck, I think I do. Alright, let me see. Jersey Devil number 1. Then it's going to be the Fresno Nightcrawler. Wait, we got ghosts here. Number 1, ghosts. Then the Jersey Devil. Then the Nightcrawlers. Then the Chupacabra. I like that. That seems right to me. Alright, moving on. Next up is BBC.
What is BBC? Let me see. Is it like something dirty, like big black?
British big cats.
Okay, that BBC is okay. Let's play the video.
Firstly, I think this was a missed opportunity to name this cryptid species Big Paw. But then again, when I first heard about this, I thought that it doesn't sound like the biggest bunch of bullshit I've ever heard. So maybe I'm gonna have to add a new tier to the tier list. But then I read on and discovered that this tier will do just fine. Now there's a website called the Webinar Vet that explains this cat shit crazy conspiracy theory very nicely in their article called British Big Cats. Is the truth out there? They mention that some people think that there are big cats, like lynxes and panthers and pumas and shit, living in the British countryside, and they've gone undetected for centuries. Quote, these big cats are remnants of indigenous Ice Age fauna that have dodged identification for centuries. Now it is apparently true that big cat species such as the lynx did inhabit the British Isles at the end of the Ice Age, stranded when the ice melted and formed the English Channel, and continued to survive until supposedly being made locally extinct a few hundred years ago. However, reports of wild big cats have been a part of British folklore for hundreds of years as well. Why? Fuck knows. But the introduction of the Dangerous Wild Animals Act of 1976, which made it mandatory to have a license to keep exotic pets, just so happens to coincide with an increase in sightings and reports of wild big cats. Presumably because some people imagined them, and some people just released their exotic pets that they were keeping illegally. Now maybe they were released because they were just too difficult to manage, they were too expensive.
I am never going to financially recover from this.
The people keeping them didn't want to get a license, or the animals just escaped. But it's very important to remember that every single exotic big cat that has been captured in Britain showed signs of captivity. And just like the Fresno Nightcrawlers or El Chupacabra or any cryptid for that matter, in order for there to be a surviving population of wild big cats in Britain, there would need to be fucking lots of them. It's kinda ridiculous to think that a population or a large population of any large animal could remain undetected for this long. Especially today, when we are finding fucking species of fish that were thought to be extinct. But we can't find fucking panthers and lynxes and pumas in the British countryside. We can't find Bigfoot no matter how many TV shows we make about him. And speaking of which, Bigfoot is a big bunch of big shit as well. But to be fair, that's mostly because Lorraine Warren said that she telepathically spoke with one. So if she said it's real, it's definitely not.
Got him!
Anyway, fuck Bigfoot. We are here to talk about Big Paw. Now, stories and legends about phantom big cats really seems to have started going mainstream around about 1978, with stories like the Beast of Exmoor, for example, making it into the newspapers. Apparently, a farmer reported that 100 of his sheep had been killed by violent throat injuries. Could this have been a phantom big cat or El Chupacabra? Fuck knows. Maybe somebody can ask Casual Geographic. But anyway, no one knew what killed these sheep. Therefore, phantom big cats. There could be no other explanation. However, the claim that these livestock had been killed by a mysterious beast led to nationwide interest, with the Daily Express offering a substantial financial reward for video footage of the creature, while the government took the unusual step of deploying a team of Royal Marine snipers to hunt down and presumably kill the creature. Despite extensive searching with night vision equipment and trained snipers, no beast was ever captured, though some soldiers reported brief sightings. Now, since the Royal Marine snipers failed to find the creature due to their utter fucking incompetence, some cryptozoologists took matters into their own hands, and they went out hunting for the Beast of Exmoor themselves. One of them set up a trap for it. Unfortunately, the only thing he caught was himself, and he had to be rescued after spending 2 nights stuck in his own trap. Well done, sir. Now, 2 more stories that went somewhat viral were the Beast of Bodmin Moor and the Cotswold Big Cat. These stories are pretty much just more of the same shit as before. Some livestock inexplicably died, and the only explanation that made any sense to anybody was phantom big cats. Because, as we all know, there are no carnivores or predators in Britain. However, as of course is tradition in cryptid stories, when it comes to finding physical evidence, all you really find is disappointment. Because in the case of the Beast of Bodmin Moor, the only evidence that was ever found was a skull found in the River Fowey. And would you believe that this skull turned out to be cut from a leopard skin rug?
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
And in the case of the Cotswold Big Cat, the only predator DNA that was found was from foxes. Cryptozoology.
What?
Anyway, later that same year, 1978, a jet black cat, now known as the fen tiger, was reported in Cambridgeshire. Police investigated, but of course, found nothing. Despite this, though, the fen tiger continues to be seen. Then, in 1994, a man out walking with a video camera, a rare occurrence back then, captured this grainy footage of a large black animal in the distance. Apparently, this thing started running away as soon as it noticed him, which good for him, because if this was a big cat, he was fucked. But unfortunately, the footage is also fucked. It's too out of focus to tell what this actually is. I mean, I couldn't even tell which way this thing was walking. But apparently, it's moving away from the camera. Now, I don't know what the fuck this is. Maybe it's a bear, but the UK doesn't have any bears. Maybe it's a Chupacabra. Maybe it is just a big cat. Because the thing about the British big cat's conspiracy theory is the only silly part about it is the fact that people think that these animals are wild. And that they live in the wild and they've gone undetected for centuries. But as soon as you start thinking that these big cats are probably just exotic pets that were either deliberately released or escaped their enclosures, the whole British big cat thing just sounds... It sounds kinda normal. And there is more proof of that than there being a large population of wild big cats that have never been found. Proof of this is that in 1980, a Scottish farmer set up a trap to catch whatever it was that was killing his animals. And instead of catching himself, he actually caught Felicity. Felicity is a puma. Well done, sir. You have done what no cryptozoologist ever has. You evaded your own trap and you actually caught something. Well done. Now, Felicity the puma was taken to the Highland Wildlife Park, where she was given the name Felicity and became a star attraction until she died 5 years later. She was then taxidermied and put into a museum that I have forgotten the name of and didn't write on my notes. But if you search it, you will find it. Anyway, let's give this conspiracy theory credit at least for producing an animal. That is actually very rare. The thing that people said was out there, fucking was. However, and this is a big however, there is quite a bit of evidence that suggests that Felicity wasn't wild. Her behavior indicated that she had been tamed, and the zoo director noted that she enjoyed being tickled. According to the webinar vet, the most likely scenario put forward is she was deliberately released by somebody who had bought a cute puma kitten and was not able to handle the adult that she grew into. Vets noted that she seemed tame, allowing people to touch her and eating food offered to her by hand. Now, interestingly, Felicity is not the only big cat that's been found. There are quite a few examples, but like I said earlier, all of them have good reasons to believe that they were just exotic pets. For example, a couple of jungle cats which are not native to Britain, as well as a couple of caracals which are native to Africa and Asia, have been found. The only explanation for that I can think of is that people brought them to Britain for whatever reason, because I don't think that cats are booking flights to the UK. Also, analysis of these cats' behaviors and teeth suggested that they were tame and spent time in captivity. And that is the case for pretty much every big cat that has ever been found. So with this all said, we can finally get to the real conspiracy theory here. The reason that it stays in the bullshit tier. The theory is that the British government are suppressing the existence of big paws. Because of course they are, but they are doing it this time to conserve them. What a plot twist. Surprisingly pleasant plot twist this time. However, it is utterly fucking preposterous to assume that any government or group of people can be this organized. As the webinar vet puts it, it is preposterous to think that the same government that has authorized fracking in several badger culls would be environmentally conscious enough to go to great lengths to hide all traces of pumas and panthers running around the country for their own protection. So I think that settles it. Big paws is a bunch of big shit. But it's not the biggest, so I guess we'll just park it at the back here. Anyways, next up is the Michigan Dogman. Now, if there ever was a cryptid that proved that people will believe just about fucking anything, it's the Michigan Dogman. Now, this thing is said to stand about 7 feet tall, has either blue or amber colored eyes, the body of a man, the head of a dog, and a fearsome howl that sounds like a human scream. Wilhelm, I think I spoke about this thing briefly in my first episode of Silly Mysteries, but for some reason, I didn't point out why it's a bunch of bullshit. So, due to my utter incompetence, I am a big bunch of bullshit as well. But not the biggest, somewhere between ghosts and the Jersey Devil. Now, apparently, this creature, the Dogman, was unknown to most of the modern world until very late in the 20th century. People say that this thing's been stalking around the Manistee River since the days when the Odawa tribes lived there. According to legend, in 1937 in Paris, Michigan, not to be confused with Paris, France, some poor, unfortunate soul named Robert Fortney was attacked by 5 wild dogs and said that one of the 5 walked on 2 legs. Now, I don't know what attacked Robert Fortney, But I would think that if he had the time to notice that one of them walked on 2 legs, he would also have the time to notice that this dog had the body of a man. However, that is not mentioned in this report. And that's probably because Robert Fortney wasn't attacked by Dogman, because Dogman did not exist before 1987, when a DJ from Michigan named Steve Cook recorded a song called The Legend, which he first played as an April Fool's Day joke. He based his song, which he recorded, on myths and legends from around North America and had never heard of an actual Michigan Dogman at the time he recorded it. In an interview with Skeptoid.com, Steve said, quote, "I made it up completely from my own imagination as an April Fool's Day prank for the radio and stumbled my way to a legend that goes all the way back to Native American times. I suppose that what some people would like to think that he described was a skinwalker, which doesn't really help here because skinwalkers are also a bunch of bullshit." Now that statement is bound to piss some people off, but how about this? You find a skinwalker and I'll take it out the bullshit tier. Good luck. Now Steve credited this song to Bob Farley, so nobody knew that he recorded it. But as is of course tradition, after he played it on the air, Steve started receiving calls from listeners who told him that they had encountered a similar creature. Over the years, apparently over 100 people have told Steve that they've seen the Dogman. Someone, somehow, even saw this fucking thing in 1887, 100 years before it was first even imagined. Now, in an effort to make this channel somewhat thought-provoking and not just complete and utter buffoonery, we will once again refer to the same argument that every cryptid story fails to explain. Where are all of the dogmen? In order for there to be a surviving population of dogmen, there would need to be fucking lots of them. It is therefore ridiculous to think that a large population of large animals could remain undetected for hundreds of years. If they are just the world heavyweight champions at hide and seek, fair enough, but they can no longer continue to hide once they die. So where the fuck are all of the bones? We've even found parts of Quetzalcoatl.
We are looking at how to pronounce this name, as well as how to say more interesting and so often mispronounced dinosaur names as well. Quetzalcoatlus.
You fucked up.
We have megalodon teeth. We've even found a coelacanth, a fucking fish in the ocean that we thought was extinct. But we just can't find the bones of a 7-foot-tall dog with the body of a man. The bones are just missing, like some people's common sense. Now, I suppose somebody asked Steve if he believes the Dogman could possibly be a real creature, because during the Skeptoid interview, Steve said, quote, "I'm tremendously skeptical, because I've sort of seen the way folklore becomes built from the creation of this song to what it's turned into. But I do believe people who think they saw something really did see something. I also think the Dogman provides them with an avenue to explain what they couldn't explain for themselves." Fair enough, but I recommend that we treat eyewitness reports for what they really are. Mostly, a big bunch of nothing. Just like the Michigan Dogman. Our next very stupid story is about Jeff, the Talking Mongoose. Jesus Christ. So apparently, there was a talking mongoose who preferred the name Jeff that lived in a farmhouse owned by the Irving family in the Isle of Man in the 1930s. Apparently, saying that a lot again today, the Irvings claimed that Jeff had communicated to them that he was an extra clever mongoose, an earthbound spirit, and a ghost in the form of a weasel.
That's the drugs talking.
Jeff once said, "I am a freak. I have hands and I have feet, and if you saw me, you'd faint. You'd be petrified, mummified, turned into stone, or a pillar of salt." Over the course of this whatever, the Irvings made various claims about Jeff. He supposedly guarded their house and informed them of the approach of guests or any unfamiliar dog. If someone forgot to put the fire out at night, Jeff would go down and stop the stove. Jeff would also wake people up when they overslept, and whenever mice got into the house, Jeff supposedly assumed the role of a cat, although he preferred to scare them rather than killing them. Well, aren't the mice just fucking lucky? For some reason though, this story became a fucking hit for the newspapers and was given extensive coverage. Guess there was nothing else really going on in the 1930s. So journalists and paranormal investigators and normal investigators flocked to the aisle to try and catch a glimpse of the creature. Now, we shouldn't be too surprised that some of these people claim to have actually seen Jeff. I mean, 100 people told Steve Cook that they saw the Dogman, a creature that he made up. But apparently, according to the people who said they saw Jeff was described as a yellowy color with a black spot on its tail. However, according to everyone else who wasn't completely full of shit, there was absolutely no physical evidence of a mongoose living in the Irving's home. But that is par for the course in cryptid stories. You never find evidence, you only find disappointment. Jeff also never spoke to anybody else except the Irvings. The things that people could actually analyze, like footprints or stains on the wall or hair samples, were all identified as belonging to the Irving sheepdog. As well were several photographs which were claimed by the Irvings to depict Jeff, but actually just depicted their dog. And what the fuck is going on? People surely could not have taken this seriously. But I suppose real animals in the real world are just not that fucking interesting to some people. In 1945, after the father, James Irving, died, his wife Margaret and daughter Vori, who was 13 when all this Jeff shit happened by the way, left the farmhouse and apparently had to sell it at a loss because it gained a reputation for being haunted on account of the Talking Mongoose. How times have changed. Haunted houses sell for way more than they're worth nowadays. But that's irrelevant. In 1946, a guy named Leslie Graham bought the farmhouse, and not long after buying the house, Leslie told the newspapers that he had found, shot and killed Jeff the Talking Mongoose. What a piece of shit. Leslie Graham, you have earned the #1 spot on the bullshit tier list. You, sir, have somehow pissed me off more than ghosts have. However, not that this makes things better, but whatever Leslie did shoot was black and white, not yellow, and the remains were much bigger than Jeff supposedly was. So most importantly, I guess, Vori Irving was pretty sure that whatever Leslie did shoot was not actually Jeff. I suppose that is supposed to mean that Jeff is still out there somewhere. He's just refusing to talk to anybody else. Pretty much how all ghosts just refuse to haunt skeptics. Or maybe there's no such thing as ghosts, and people who want to believe in them just interpret any sound or weird thing to ghosts. And I know this to be true from personal experience. Not me, I don't believe in ghosts and never have. But a couple of years ago, myself, Mrs. Historian, and a couple of friends signed up for a ghost tour because we thought it would be funny. After walking around the town on a very windy night, by the way, we ended up at an old pub that sits on a street corner, and the tour guide starts telling us all this bullshit about how this pub is haunted by a poltergeist, and there is a CCTV footage video of the poltergeist pulling a waitress's ponytail. He then goes on and says that this thing pushes off glasses and bottles and plates and makes a big fucking noise at night. And as he's telling us this, we start hearing this really loud knocking. And he's like, wow, listen to that, that's the poltergeist. Cool, huh? At this point, I thought to myself, does that even sound like it's coming from inside the pub? I said, not really. It sounds like it's coming from somewhere outside here. So I decided to do some exhausting detective work by walking just a couple of meters to the street corner where I could see both street-facing sides of this old pub. And that's where I noticed a street light that was blocked from view where the ghost group was standing to look at the pub. And on this fucking street light was an advertisement that was loose and flapping in the wind. The knocking sounds that we were hearing was the plastic frame knocking on the street light. Now, it took me like 5 seconds to figure out what was actually making the noise, but the tour guide just immediately said, ghost. So it's about at this time that I realized that this tour guide was full of shit. So I thought to myself again, if this guy actually has the CCTV footage of the poltergeist pulling the girl's ponytail, then that would make this whole tour a little more interesting. So I asked the guy, do you have the CCTV footage of the poltergeist pulling the girl's hair? The tour guide said see. So I said, can I see the CCTV footage, please? And to my utter fucking disappointment, he said, I don't have it on me, but I can send it to you. Well, I'm still fucking waiting for it. And you'd think that the right time to have this video on you is when you're giving a ghost tour that includes the very fucking pub where you're saying this bullshit actually happened. But what the fuck do I know? Well, what I do know is that Jeff the Talking Mongoose never spoke to anybody else except the Irvings. Nobody else in the entire world ever heard Jeff speak. Now, I'm not sure exactly what the yellowy thing that people said they saw was, but according to paranormal investigator Harry Price, and just keep in mind, take whatever Harry Price said with a big grain of salt as well, but according to Harry, the Irvings' home had these double walls of wooden paneling that had considerable interior airspace between them. From what he observed, in his opinion, this pretty much made the whole house one big speaking tube, with these walls or air spaces acting like giant soundboards. So he thought that by speaking into one of the many holes in the panels, it should be possible to project your voice to various different parts of the house. According to a guy named Richard Wiseman, Harry Price was less than enthusiastic about this case, concluding that only the most credulous of individuals would be impressed with the evidence for Jeff. And I mean, for Harry Price to say something like that, that's pretty devastating. A guy named Jeffrey Sconce also thought that the most likely explanation here is that this extra clever mongoose was just an imaginary companion created by the Irvings' extra clever daughter. However, Vori maintained until her death that Jeff was not her creation. So ultimately, I suppose, the mystery is, if Jeff really was a hoax, why did the Irvings never admit it? Well, you know, it's not really that unusual. Not every person who has ever created a hoax admitted it before dying. A good example of this is Roger Patterson. He never admitted that he faked that famous Bigfoot video with his buddy Bob Gimlin, but now we have really good reason to assume that it's fake, because his son Clint admitted that he saw his father burning the gorilla suit. And sure, since eyewitness testimony is so fucking unreliable, they've even apparently found a test run that Roger Patterson did just shortly before filming the famous one. And in that footage, it apparently shows a much thinner Bigfoot. So here's a question for you. If the test run footage with the thinner Bigfoot wasn't faked, why did they never release that? Why did they only ever go public with the famous Patterson-Gimlin film? Here's a better question. Does knowing that Roger Patterson faked a Bigfoot video in the past make you feel like you can trust this video more now? The same guy that just so happened to buy a Bigfoot costume, then hired a really tall guy to wear that costume and pretend to be Bigfoot, just happens to be the only guy who has ever caught somewhat decent footage of a Bigfoot. Does that make you trust this video more? In fact, here's a better question for you. Why don't I just stay on track and finish talking about Jeff the Talking Mongoose? My final point was, if Jeff was really real, why did he never talk to anybody else? As we've noted in several cases involving entities that communicate with the family that they are haunting, like the Bell Witch or Enfield or whatever, there is almost always teenagers involved. Vori Irving was, importantly, 13 years old at the time. So it is therefore suspected that if any of this actually happened, because no one other than James, Margaret, and Vori witnessed anything, so if any of this actually happened, it's more than likely that it was just Vori tricking her parents. Maybe ventriloquism, but most likely just talking through the holes in the walls. And I'm willing to bet that the story, which was published in the newspapers, was probably just hyped up in order to sell more newspapers. As is, of course, tradition. Anyway, fuck you, Jeff, in the bullshit tier you go. And before I forget, ghost tours. What a bunch of fucking bullshit as well. I think I will put you right behind Leslie Graham. And finally now, for the headliner of today's video, Champ. Now, I kinda just want to get straight to the point with this one, but if you have no idea what Champ is, it is supposed to be a dinosaur or a plesiosaur or some kind of lake monster that lives here in Lake Champlain. This lake that lies between Vermont and New York. Now, in 1977, a lady named Sandra Manzi took this photograph. This photograph is apparently considered to be the best photograph of a lake monster ever taken, and the best evidence for the existence of a hidden animal. Despite that, Sandra then, for some fucking reason, threw the negative away. For those of us who have no idea why that is such a fucking catastrophe, back in ancient times before digital photography, this would have been a very unusual practice. According to a guy named Robert Bartholomew writing on the Skeptical Inquirer, most people kept their negatives in case they needed duplicates or the original was destroyed. Now, this is especially baffling given that Sandra took a picture of what she believed to be a fucking dinosaur in Lake Champlain. Arguably one of the most important zoological photographs of all time. Not just the 20th century, all time. I can't believe how almost every single story we've spoken about today, something like this happens. My God. Now, if the negative of this photograph is ever found, it should be possible to magnify it to see more detail, and then possibly, maybe even identify what the fuck this really was. I'm willing to be wrong, just find the negative and we can take a second look, but to me, this just looks like a bit of wood. But hey, if you can prove it's a lake monster, that'll make me pretty happy. But another problem here is that Sandra can't even remember where exactly she was standing when she took this photograph. Because, of course, but if the location that this photo was taken from is ever identified, it should then be possible to figure out how big exactly this thing really was. Now, as the story stands right now, this is typical of cryptozoology. We have somewhat of an unfalsifiable story. We can see that she took a photograph of something, but that photograph isn't clear enough for us to tell what that something is. Typical cryptozoology. However, also typical of cryptozoology are the very many contradictions and red flags in this story. So Sandra's husband was asked where the negative of this photograph was, and according to him, they either buried it or burnt it. Apparently, according to him, the reason they did this was because their experience had been somewhat fearful. And he says that while Sandra has claimed repeatedly over the years that she either lost the negative or threw it away. Why? Well, presumably because the photograph is so scary. So scary, in fact, that Sandra told two different journalists in 1981 that they had this photo on display on a bulletin board in their kitchen. And she said that her kids would bring their friends over and show them the lake monster. So, if this experience was so traumatizing, why display the photograph? It's a pretty damn good question. One, it seems that they had a lot of time to think about. Because when Sandra was asked about the shit again 11 years later in 1992, this time Sandra said that as soon as it came back from developing, she hid the photo in an album behind another photo. And it stayed there for years. However, despite this massive plot hole, close friend and author Joseph W. Zarzinski wrote a book called Champ, Beyond the Legend. And in this book, he just decided to ignore all of these contradictions. He also conveniently ignored the fact that a nautical expert that Sandra sent this photograph to, an expert named Philip Rains, said that he cannot authenticate this photograph. But Zarzinski still claimed in his book that the photo was likely authentic. Zarzinski also said that it's not weird that Sandra couldn't find the place she took the photograph from, because over the years, that area around Lake Champlain had changed a lot. Fair point, but also a bunch of bullshit, because Sandra mentioned that she took this photo somewhere between St. Albans and the Canadian border, which only takes up about 20 miles of this 587-mile long lake. So, that narrows down the search quite a lot for them. Too bad that Sandra and her husband weren't fucking interested in searching for the photo spot, because in 1980, at Zarzinski's request, the Manzis spent 10 days vacationing in the region and were to spend part of their time trying to identify the site. It was one of the reasons for their trip in the first place. This was their opportunity to validate this photograph. Then, on July 17th, 1980, a crestfallen Zarzinski sent Rains a remarkable letter. The letter said, quote, "For your knowledge, the Manzis did not look for the site." They waited until the last couple of days of their vacation to look, and according to them, bad weather set in. I guess they could not leave the island. I think it was very poor planning on their part. Robert Bartholomew asks, was this really poor planning, or did the Manzis know something that they weren't telling? During the final 3 days of their trip, local weather records reveal that the conditions were fine.
You've now just confirmed in my mind you're not trustworthy, so fuck you.
I mean, if you're gonna lie about the weather, there's no fucking way I'm believing you about a lake monster. But we gave you a chance to validate the photo, and you blew it. Anyways, despite knowing all of this, Joe Zarzinski still released his book in 1984 anyway. This is the book, by the way, that says that this photograph is likely authentic. As Robert Bartholomew says in this article that I've been paraphrasing, Joe Zarzinski's actions bring to mind the adage, why let the facts get in the way of a good story? So that right there is pretty much the history on the best lake monster photo ever taken. Sandra has said over the years that they lost the negative, they threw it away, her husband said they either buried it or burnt it, and if you remember, they got rid of the negative because it was so scary, but the developed photo was either on display in the kitchen for all the kids' friends to see, or just hidden behind another photo in a photo album and not burnt and destroyed because this one, the developed one, is just not as scary as the negative. Choose whatever details you like because it really doesn't matter, I guess. Champ is a bunch of bullshit. Now I know that people have reported seeing lake monsters in Lake Champlain since the early 1800s, but what a bunch of complete and utter eyewitness reports. The biggest problem with Champ is that Lake Champlain only formed about 10,000 years ago. That is a considerably long time after the dinosaurs were smashed by an asteroid. So I don't know how anyone can explain how a plesiosaur, whatever the fuck this thing is supposed to be, ended up in this lake. It would have had to have walked across land to get there, and I don't know how a plesiosaur is doing that. They don't have legs. Anyways, according to Joe Nickel on the Skeptical Inquirer, a single creature could neither live for centuries nor reproduce itself. Does this sound familiar? So, in order for there to be a population of fucking plesiosaurs in Lake Champlain, there would need to be lots of them. And if there were indeed multiple plesiosaurs, zeuglodons, and other leviathans in Lake Champlain, over time, a beached carcass or other certain trace of one would have surely presented itself. But it never did. So until the negative is found, or at least the site that the photo was taken from is identified, Champ will live on in our hearts and the bullshit tier. On to what I really wanted to show you now. In 2024, a film crew filming a movie called Lucy and the Lake Monster caught this footage on a drone while filming some shit for their movie on Lake Champlain. Now this clip is only a couple seconds long, so I thought let me look around for the full thing. Spoiler, I never found it, but I did find this video uploaded by the director of the film, Richard Rossi. And Richard says in this comment here, for more drone footage and information, visit lucyandthelakemonster.com. So I decided to do some exhausting detective work, and I clicked on the link. I don't know why, but I went over there expecting to see the full 12-minute video and to find out that sea monsters are actually fucking real. I was fully prepared to put this entire video into the bullshit tier. But as always, to my utter fucking disappointment, this website, lucyandthelakemonster.com, says, quote, the 10 seconds on YouTube that went viral this week is an excerpt of longer drone footage. We are considering releasing the full 12 minutes and 57 seconds of Champ drone footage. Would you be interested in an exclusive first look at the longer unreleased drone footage? Of course! Well then, send your email to join the preview list if and when it is available to this guy's email address.
You gotta be fucking kidding me.
Well listen, I've watched enough Pleasant Green to know that this is a trap. But let me just ask you one question first. Why, in the blue flaming fucking hell, are you not just uploading the full 12-minute video? What the fuck are you trying to do here? Well, the website goes on to say, on June 7th, 2026, global media broke the story of our shocking unedited drone footage capturing a mysterious 30-foot creature moving through the waters of Lake Champlain. No idea what they're talking about. I can't find the full video, but this clip here was uploaded in August 2024. And I'm sure that it's just a coincidence that Lucy and the Lake Monster released in September 2024. So it's now 2026, June 7th has passed. Where is the full video? Well, just like all the other cryptids in the world, it is fucking missing. Just like some people's common sense.
Got him!
Reading on. Filmmakers Richard Rossi and Kelly Tabor are on location right now, turning this historic viral moment into our next dramatic feature film. The Secrets of Lake Champlain. The highly anticipated sequel to Lucy and the Lake Monster. Production has restarted, but independent cinema requires real community support to keep our crew on the ground, sustain production, and finish our upcoming movie. Support us today and get your name in the movie credits for a donation of $19 or more. No. How about this? How about you upload the full 12-minute video first and then I'll donate $19. Now look, I'm really just talking out of my ass here, but here's the vibe that I get. And yes, vibes aren't very scientific, it is my opinion. My opinion is that this is a marketing campaign. The idea here seems to be make a bullshit video, hope it goes viral, and then use that attention to promote your movie. If that's the case,
You've now just confirmed in my mind you're not trustworthy. So
I don't know what else to say. All I can say though is that there's a bunch of reasons to believe that there isn't a lake monster or a plesiosaur or a fucking dinosaur, whatever, in Lake Champlain. So if you're gonna claim that there is one, then I certainly hope you produce the evidence. Until then, I am skeptical, because I just think that it's unbelievably suspicious that the people who set out to make a champ movie just so happened to capture this footage as well. Not that this even looks like anything to me. Could even be a prop that were filming a movie. But the point is that these people going out to film a champ movie just so happen to get proof of champ, while the rest of the world can't find any fucking trace of this thing. Except Sandra Manzi, who some people think did. But then threw the evidence away, or buried it, or burnt it, or lost it, or hid it behind another photo because it was too scary to look at, or left it on display in the kitchen for the kids to bring their friends over and show them because this was the most exciting thing that ever happened to them, and then apparently couldn't go out and look for the spot they took the photo from because of bad weather. But the weather was actually fine the whole time, and they literally had no fucking excuse at all. What a bunch of fucking bullshit.